All right, let's talk Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys in the middle of training camp right now. Obviously, a lot of news happening with Dallas. So we've got a deep dive for you guys because the Cowboys coaching staff has come out with multiple statements about one rookie playmaker in particular that they're really excited about. Great news for Dallas because it's at a critical position need. We'll get to that reports and some very interesting data on this deep dive in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick. That is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Dallas Cowboys went into this offseason with question marks at a lot of positions, but when all the dust settled and we headed into camp, a lot of those questions had been answered. But at one position, there was still a lot of open questions, and that was the running back position. Rico Dowdle, of course, gone. Ezekiel Elliott gone. Running back was terrible last year for Dallas. They added some guys, some veterans in the mix, but when they drafted Jaydon Blue out of Texas, it got a lot of people excited. Blue had a really solid, nothing spectacular, but solid mini camp and OTA. Got just worn down by a media hit piece that we covered about his work ethic that we pretty much talked about it being false way back, I think, a week or so ago now. But when you listen to what the Cowboys coaching staff is saying today about Jaydon Blue, you should get excited. Let's pull up the reports. Then we'll get into some very interesting data on the other side. So we got two tweets for you guys, or posts on X, whatever you want to call it. The top one is courtesy of Clarence Hill Jr. He posted, Cowboys offensive coordinator Clayton Adams said rookie running back Jaydon Blue is blossoming. Okay, don't know how often I've heard the word blossoming in an NFL press conference before, but heck, we'll take it. Jaydon Blue doing good things. And the second half there is courtesy of Voice of the Star. That's Patrick Walker, quoting Brian Schottenheimer on Jaydon Blue's progress. The quote said, the speed, the dynamic playmaking ability. He's a dual threat guy. He doesn't need a lot of space to make guys miss. He's uncanny. But what I like is the professionalism he's shown at this camp. Yeah, I talked about the last sentence there at the time about the fact that Blue was dealing with a media hit piece about him being lazy. I think Schottenheimer threw that sentence in there to kind of back up and support his player. But it's undeniable. We've seen the footage, or if you haven't, you should check it out on the internet. Jaydon Blue being very productive, big runs, cutbacks, big opportunities in training camp, making big plays out of the backfield, receiving the football as well. Just a complete total weapon emerging for the Dallas Cowboys. And that's exactly what they need. Because if you look at the numbers and look at the raw data, we all know the Cowboys were bad at running back last year. But when you look at the data, it gets even worse. Let's pull up our first graphic here to highlight what we're talking about. So this is the Cowboys running backs, their 2024 efficiency. So those two red dots on the left are Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott, right? The two, I'll say, primary running backs for Dallas last season. And at the x-axis, you got your rush EPA per play. And at the y-axis, you got your EPA per target. And you can see the Dallas Cowboys, in terms of rush EPA per play, were below zero for both of those guys. Not good. And right at zero at EPA per target. So they just weren't good at anything. They were below average in running. And you can see they're actually some of the worst in rushing. Actually were the worst in rushing. You can see all the dots there. And they were right in the middle of the pack, essentially non-effective at receiving. They had no strength whatsoever. And that was obviously a real problem for the Cowboys. Let's go into our next graphic here. Maybe that's sort of the high level. Maybe they were good in the red zone, in the red area. Spoiler alert, guys, they weren't. In this next graphic, you can see, again, the two red dots in terms of rush EPA per play. Again, really struggling, and EPA per target centered right around zero. They're on the far left side of this graphic. Again, not good for the Dallas Cowboys at the running back position. This is raw data, folks. This is unbiased raw data. You already knew this to be true, but this is just so exemplary to see how bad they were and why the Cowboys coaching staff is so high on Jaydon Blue. And just to wrap it up, let's go into our final graphic here. How about fourth quarter, right? Let's see how we're doing. Running backs are supposed to get better as the quarter goes on. And you can see here the rush, those two red dots there, again, below average in terms of rush EPA per play. You actually have a decent little spike in EPA per target. That's Rico Dowdle, that red dot at the top, but that was actually a pretty small sample size. So don't focus on that too much, but you can see overall what this has shown us, the Cowboys on an EPA basis, which is just analytical basis, were terrible at running back last year. Now, I know a lot of you guys are like saying, well, duh, we knew that. But I don't think people understand how bad the Cowboys were and how much just sort of baseline competency would make the Cowboys better, let alone legit playmaking ability would make the Cowboys so much better. And that's why Jaydon Blue's blossoming, to quote Clayton Adams, talk about the uncanny playmaking, if you quote Schottenheimer, is so important, because if that can translate to the regular season, again, the fact that they were able to operate as an offense as poor as they were with the way these numbers looked out is an incredible job. Credit to CeeDee Lamb and the guys who just stuck through. Give some credit to Prescott and Cooper Rush finding a way to make it work, because it just wasn't there running the football or even throwing the football to the running back out of the backfield. But if Jaydon Blue can become that big playmaker when it comes to rushing and receiving, that combined, which is what he's doing in training camp at this point, And they, again, talking about getting to baseline competency, middle of the pack, that would be a massive leap. Blue's not a baseline competency kind of guy. When you look at the reports, look at what he's doing. He looks like a future star emerging, a legitimate playmaker, a legitimate weapon out of the backfield, catching and running the football. If that happens for Dallas, watch out. That could be one of the massive pendulum swings in the entire NFC. The Cowboys going from disaster area at playmaking and running back in 2024 to having a big time playmaker and running back in 2025, both catching and rushing. That'll completely flip the script, and we'll see the entire offense catapult forward because of that. I know right now a lot of people are concerned about the injuries up front on the offensive line, and rightfully so. But let's focus on Jaydon Blue, his playmaking ability and progression. He looks like a big time star. And again, don't take our word for it. Listen to the Cowboys coaches. They're incredibly high on this young rookie. All right, Miles, I know you got a few thoughts on this. But first, Cowboys fans, in the comment section below, as we get ready, talking about deeper into training camp in the first preseason game, what Cowboys player are you looking forward to see more than any other in the first preseason game? Is it Blue? Is it somebody else? Obviously, there's a lot of rookies. Maybe it's a veteran guy you want to see. Let us know which Dallas Cowboy you want to see in the Cowboys' first preseason game more than any other. Put them in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest out of Dallas?
Yeah, Nick, I think that just everything here aligning for the Cowboys just shows, first of all, like you said, the story that we did a week or so ago now on Blue, it was just a bunch of malarkey. This guy's really talented. He brings a lot of great stuff to this Cowboys team, and it's good to hear such high praise for him out of camp already. But I think the key here is when you throw these three graphs, which you really know how to nail a point home, Nick, about how bad the Cowboys were at running the ball last year. Jaydon Blue is a very, very necessary addition to this team. So it's good to hear that he's doing really good stuff so far for this team. I think he is going to make a big difference from this team. We kind of talked about his comps and how he compared to everything going on the last couple of years for Dallas, and him versus Tony Pollard, like what kind of similarities these guys had. There's a lot to like about Jaydon Blue. I think he brings a lot to the table, but I think the key for me is this is a guy that we've seen everything he's done in college. He played at the highest level of college football, played at Texas, played against the toughest teams. He did really, really good stuff in those aspects. Now, we knew that he could do all of that stuff. Now, the most important thing, carrying it over to the NFL already. Is it translating? Do we get to hear it? And this is the first time we've seen this guy rushing in practice, padded practices against other NFL quality defenders. Yes, he can do it. He is doing a really good job so far. We're hearing all of the praise for Jaydon Blue from the coaches, talking about dynamic playmaking, dual threat, everything you love to hear about a running back, they are saying about Jaydon Blue. So undoubtedly, this guy is going to be the real deal. I think he's going to put the rubber to the road for the running back position for the Cowboys. It's going to be a really great addition. We know running backs are kind of plug and play out of college. We've seen it happen. Most guys, you can come in, really just put them into the offense as long as they understand the scheme and the blocking scheme is beneficial to what they're doing. They can get in there and really make big time additions in year one, unlike a lot of other positions where it might take a little bit of time for them to spool up. I'm excited about Jaydon Blue. I expect to see a lot of him on the field this season and really want to see him in a couple of preseason games. That's what I'm looking forward to most about this young playmaker. This is going to be an exciting position to watch here for the Cowboys.